Oh, hey there. So I've got 2 extra tickets if anybody wants them. You can have them for free. They're traffic tickets, but they're yours if you want them. Okay, now I want to tell you about the first time that I went skydiving. Okay, I don't know how many of you guys have been skydiving. I've been about 10 times now. I love every extreme thing, and so I do it all the time. Now, the first time I went, I'm way too lazy to go through a class and learn how to jump on my own, so I just go tandem, right? So I got somebody strapped on my back, and everybody's like, you shouldn't jump out of a perfectly good airplane. Let me assure you, they're not perfectly good airplanes. They're falling apart airplanes. You're lucky to be jumping out of that thing, okay? So you're in this tiny little sardine can, and we fly up to altitude. It takes about 15, 20 minutes, maybe 30 minutes to get up there. We get to 14,500 feet. Before we do that, we get to 5,000 feet, right? Somebody lifts open the door, and they hold it out, and they're looking down a mile. A mile is 5,280 feet. That's 5,000 feet down. And they latch the door, and they're just looking straight down. And then the pilot, who's, like this far away from us, says, you're in the drop zone. And then, without hesitation, all these people drop out. First, before that happened, there was a girl that went static. Okay, so static means that the airplane pulls your chute for you. Okay, so she gets out on the wing, and she's holding on to there's a wing, and then there's like a cross section. She's holding on to that, and they're like, okay, you ready? And she's like, yeah. And she lets her feet go, but then she keeps holding on, and her body goes, and it was gone. And I'm like, oh, yikes. that's you can't even see her. She's gone. She's done. So, then the people all jump out, and they're fearless. They do it all the time. And that's my turn. And so, I'm like at the back of the plane where the poor people sit, and we ooch up to the front, and the guy's like, okay, you ready to skydive? I'm like, yeah. And, I'm here, like, let's do this thing. So we get out to the edge, and he goes, I need you to sit out past the edge. So I'm sitting, and he's sitting behind me. And I sit on the edge, right? Like my butt's on the edge, and my feet are hanging off. And he goes, no. I have to sit on the edge. You got to sit past the edge. I'm like, ooh. So I get past. I'm sitting on nothing, and he's sitting on the edge of the plane. And he goes, you ready to skydive? I'm like, yeah. And he goes, lean your head back and cross your arms. I do. And he goes, 1, 2, and we're out. We're out of the plane. And this was my first time, right? Now I know what to expect. And so I'm much more like, yeah, let's do this thing. But at the time, you fall and you immediately start going, like you're trying to get back in the plane, like that's even possible, okay? And then he kind of grabs your arm and pulls it back. And so your center of gravity is in the middle, and then you're falling down, as you should be, right? And so you're falling down, and the ground is getting closer and closer and closer and closer. And, you can see the ground coming. Is it ground coming or ground, whatever. Anyway, so you're going down really fast. It's 135 miles an hour, whatever it is. And sounds like my ride's here. Anyway, then you're going down, and then all of a sudden, he's like, you ready to pull the chute? I'm like, yeah. Oh, they really are here. And so he had me do it. So, pull the chute, and all of a sudden, boom, and just stillness, right? And then you ride down for another 8 minutes or whatever it is. And when you finally land on the ground, he kind of pulls the thing, and you lift your feet up, and it feels like I jumped off a chair. I mean, that's how easy the landing was, at least every time I've gone. But there's that moment, okay? And that's what I want to talk to you about, is that moment that you jump out of the plane and you clamor up like, I want to get back in the plane. That is not physically possible. That part of your life is over. You have to make adjustments for the fact that the ground's coming, okay? And you need to get yourself right and leveled off and your center of gravity right so that you can skydive properly, so that when it's time to open your chute, it opens properly, so that you live and it feels like you jumped off of a chair, okay? I think a lot of people, life happens, something happens that pulls the rug out from underneath them. And they start clamoring for the thing they had before. And you're like, that part is over. That chapter of your life is done. You have to make preparations for the new thing that's happening. You have to focus on where you're at now. Stop tripping over things that are behind you. Stop tripping over things that are in your past, and start thinking like, what can I do to make sure that I land this thing right? It's going to take some effort. It's going to take some focus. Like if I'm up there skydiving, right? I'm dropping out of the sky like a rock, by the way. That's the way it feels. It feels like, because you're falling at terminal velocity or whatever. You're falling hard and you're falling fast. And if I'm up there like, I wonder what my taxes are going to be like this year. Let's see. I'm pulling out my calculator, trying to do some things. I am not going to do the right thing when it comes to landing this. I might die, okay? And I think that we need to have a sense of urgency when it comes to our lives. We just keep living like, oh, whatever. And you're like, brace for impact, buddy. We're coming up hard on death. We're coming up hard on the end of the world. It is time to make serious preparations for that. Get your life right with Jesus while you can, so that when you do land, and eventually we will, okay, we're either going to hit the ground or we're going to land softly, that it feels like you jumped off that chair. It feels like, well, that wasn't that bad at all. That was actually a lot of fun, because here's what happens. Everybody that I've taken skydiving with me, they're like, I don't know, I'm afraid. And then they hit the ground and they're like, let's do that again. That was awesome. And I'm like, I know, right? So stop tripping over things that are behind you and stop clamoring for something that is now a chapter that's gone in your life. Appreciate what it was and move on and focus on the next thing. Love you guys.